Honorable Minister of Public Service and Administration. So it's part of those that in the order. Does any member wish to give a notice of a motion? Honorable Mikalakis.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move with notice that during its next sitting, Council debates the state of state-owned hospitals in South Africa. That Council notes 19-year-old Karina Fasagi from Gariep Dam in the Free State was left for a month to wait for a spinal fracture to grow back due to a lack of qualified surgeons at the Plenary Hospital in Bloemfontein, the only state hospital in the province accredited to perform such surgery. Thirdly, that Council further notes that patients in the maternity ward of the Dr. Harry Surtees Hospital in the Northern Cape are forced to sleep on mattresses on the floor due to a lack of proper beds. Fourthly, that Council further notes that during recent parliamentary oversight at various hospitals, it was noted that a hospital such as the Dr. Alan Blyth Hospital in Ladysmith, Western Cape, can be compared to the best private hospitals available. Lastly, that Council debates the failure of some provincial administrations in providing proper health care, whilst others flourish. I so move.
Honorable Julius.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a notice of a motion that Council takes note that the effectiveness of petitions as a measure that Council debates at the next sitting, the effectiveness of petitions as a measure to increase public recourse and reduce service delivery protest actions in South Africa. I so move.
I hope I'm not leaving anybody. Does any member wish to move a motion without notice? Honorable Kimbi.
Thank you, Chairperson. On behalf of the ANC, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes that the courts have sent a warning to business and mall robbers that they can expect hefty sentence following the 15-year imprisonment of 2 robbers in the Somerset West Magistrate Court last week. Further notes that the convicted robbers Tulani Limani and Siabonga Mgonchwana were found guilty of robbing 2 Somerset West businesses at gunpoint in 2012. Congratulate the detective for the outstanding investigation, ensuring the successful conviction, and hope that the sentence will be a different to criminals. I so move, sir.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Ntebe.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the African National Congress, I would want to move a motion without a notice that the Council notes and congratulate a job well done by the South African Police Service in the Northwest Province with regards to the arrest of the drug syndicate. Further notes that the police seized cat, crystal meth, cocaine, mandrax, ecstasy, worth hundreds of thousands from 7 Nigerian nationals in the Northwest Province on the 15th of March 2015. Therefore, congratulates the SAPS in the successful operation that has resulted in the removal of harmful drugs from our streets and apprehending the culprits, and hope that they will face the full might of the law. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Grunewald.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chairperson. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice. It is with great sadness that the DA offer our condolences to the families of the 4 teachers from the Mount Packard Junior Secondary School who died on their way to work last week in the Eastern Cape Province. The 4 teachers from the Mount Packard Junior Secondary School died when the taxi they were travelled in collided with a bulldozer on the road to Coffee Bay. This is a tragedy for the community and education. One death of a teacher is too many. Imagine the death of 4 from the same school. May their souls rest in peace. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Prince.
Thank you, Honorable Person. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes and welcomes the stability in power supply that is steadily beginning to be provided by Eskom. Also notes that this improvement occurs after the lengthy intervals of load shedding and has been disturbing in business and the society at large. Further notes that the improvement in the production of power in Eskom's Ndupi power station marks a promising beginning in as far as electric service is concerned. Therefore, appreciates the efforts of the power utility in its endeavours to create stability that will sustain economic development. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mtimunye.
Thank you, House Chair. On behalf of the ANC, I hereby move without notice that Council notes the Mpumalanga Health Department in partnership with Eskom has officially launched a bus known as a School Health Mobile Unit at Chabane Primary School on Friday the 13th of March 2015. Further notes that the beneficiaries of the Health Mobile Unit will be pupils from primary and secondary schools in the areas where people were struggling to access health services in the Nkangala District Municipality of Mpumalanga. Therefore, congratulates the Mpumalanga Health Department and Eskom for their commitment in uplifting the lives of the less privileged people and taking care of the future leaders' education. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Stock. Honorable Singh.
Thank you, House Chair. I hereby move without notice that this Council notes with concern the lack of water that has continued for 10 days in the Pietermaritzburg New Prison. Also notes that inmates have been fed brown bread and tea because the staff are unable to cook or clean. Further notes also lots of inmates could not be able to bath or even use the toilets. Therefore calls on Correctional Services Department for a speedy intervention and investigation on this matter, as it's a potential for a health hazard. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Knudse.
Honourable Chair, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that Section 16 of the Rules and Guidelines for the Administration and Management of the Department of Higher Education states that students who reside within a radius of 10 kilometers from a college should not be considered for an award for travel allowance or accommodation allowance. Many of the TVET college campuses are situated in dangerous areas such as Vuselela TVET College, Matlosana campus, among countless others. thousands of students who are forced to walk within a 10-kilometer radius to TVET colleges' campuses have become easy prey for criminal activities. The DI calls on the Department of Higher Education and Training to heed the call of the tens of thousands of students together with management to repeal this portion of Section 16 as it is in the best interest of the safety and security of our students. Thank you. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mikalakis.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that Council extends its condolences to the family of the late William Engelbrecht from Naval-Sig Bloemfontein, who lost his life recently. Mr. Engelbrecht suffered from severe asbestosis and was permanently connected to two oxygen machines. Mr. Engelbrecht died as the machines failed during Eskom's second session load shedding that day. That Council condemns the fact that at least one innocent citizen's life was shortened due to the maladministration of this state-owned enterprise. And lastly, that Council acknowledges that citizens and the quality of their lives should never be compromised through poor administration. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? In light of the objection, the motion may not be proceeded with. The motion without notice will now become notice of a motion. Honorable Faber.
Thank you, Chair. The DA moves and congratulate the Stellenbosch University's Division of Urology of performing the first penis transplant in the world. The team of doctors at Tygerberg Hospital who carried out the world's first successful penis transplant have been inundated with requests from men around the world who want to have this operation. Several men have also offered to be donors, not me. And Professor van der Merwe, head of the division, said they did not expect the overwhelming reaction of these people. But on the waiting list are also 9 people that had traditional circumcisions. And we congratulate this division for helping out these people. I thank you and move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Order, members. Honorable members, we now come to I nearly forgot you. Honorable Makowe, let's have the last one from Honorable Makowe.
Thank you for your indulgence, Chairperson. On behalf of the ANC, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes that 7 people that include 4 men, 2 women and a child aged 2 were killed and 3 others were critically wounded during a shooting at Chief Albert Lutuli Informal Settlement in Crystal Park in Benoni on Saturday, the 14th of March 2015. Further notes that a group of 15 people armed with pistols and rifles shot at a group of people standing at a spaza shop in the same area. Therefore, implore the police to leave no stone unturned in making sure that the perpetrators of this violence on unarmed and defenseless people face the full might of the law. I so move.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable members, we now come to the oration of condolences on the passing on of the Minister of Public Service and Administration, Honorable O.C. Chabane. In terms of our speakers list, Honorable Acting Chief Whip, Honorable I.
Honorable House Chair, honorable members, special delegates, as members of parliament who are deeply shocked and saddened by the untimely death of an outstanding competent, accomplished, and dependable member of the cabinet. The ultimate death of Minister Chabane is a huge loss to government and the country as a whole. From the sadness we shared when we heard of his passing away, knowing that he was no longer amongst those living, we accepted that the memory will be our keepsake, which will never part. On Sunday morning, when it was announced that he had departed the land of the living, disbelief became our close companion, and anger followed in its wake as we answered the heroic question, "Death, where is thy sting?" With it is here in our hearts and minds and memories. Mr. Chabane served as a minister in the presidency, responsible for performance monitoring and evaluation during the fourth administration. He was able to develop and build a new department of performance monitoring and evaluation within a short space of time, and was able to make the monitoring and evaluation function a crucial part of government. The year 2015 has been declared as the year of Freedom Charter and Unity in Action to advance economic freedom. It is a year of going extra mile in building a united, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist and prosperous South Africa. 2015 is a year where we need the caliber of Minister Chabane, an outstanding, competent, accomplished, and dependent member of the cabinet. 2015 is a year we have also set aside for the 9-point plan to ignite growth and create jobs. Among some of the commitments cabinet has made are the following: resolving the energy challenges, revitalizing agriculture and the agro-processing value chain, advancing beneficiation and modernizing workplace conflict. And for all the above to be achieved, we need the person of the caliber of Minister Chabane, an outstanding organic intellectual, a struggle giant, and a humble revolutionary, and a selfless warrior. Memory is our keepsake, with which will never part. God has you in his keeping. We have you in our hearts, from our thoughts to our memories, from our days to our nights. Ambagahle Chabane.
Thank you. Honorable Faba.
Thank you, Chair. The Democratic Alliance would like to declare the following on the passing of Collins Chabane, Minister of Public Service and Administration. Our sincerest condolences to his family, friends, colleagues, and all those who knew him. His passing is a great loss to the Department of Public Service and Administration and South Africa at large. He was and shall always be remained as a gentle, kind man with a great sense of humor who had a passion for music. Not only has he given himself to political life, both provincially, nationally, and in various capacities, but he always contributed to our arts and culture as a recording musician and having released 2 CDs with his band Movement. He has also contributed much to South African politics and was an influential figure in the liberation struggle and the fight for the human rights of all South Africans. We are also saddened by the passing of Sergeant Lesiba Setlete and Sergeant Lawrence Lensuane, who spent their lives in service of our country. We extend our condolences to their loved ones as well. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance and all South Africans, our thoughts and prayers are with their families and friends during this tragic time. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Vauda.
Honorable Chair, honorable members, the EFF wishes to take this moment to express our sincere condolences to the families of Minister Chabane, Sergeant Lentswane, and Sergeant Sekele. We also want to express our condolences to the political party of the Minister, the African National Congress, who together with his bodyguards sadly passed on in a car accident on Sunday morning. Road accidents in South Africa have become a serious national problem which must be tackled head-on. According to the World Health Organization Global Status Report on Road Safety 2013, 50% of death related to road accidents in South Africa involve alcohol. Research from the South African Medical Research Council reveals that 50% of all road accidents, alcohol is a contributing factor. But not only is alcohol linked to road fatalities in the country, but it is also responsible for breaking up families and contributes to many other social ills in our society. The other disturbing factor is the treatment of truck drivers by companies they work for. The research findings from the Brain Function Research Unit at the University of the Witwatersrand reveal that truck drivers sleep less than 4 hours per day. According to this survey, 3/4 of truck drivers reported being tired of the job due to long working hours. These revelations are a clear indication that the transport industry needs serious investigation. Finally, Honorable Chair and members, we pray that the Almighty grants the deceased peace and that the Almighty also helps to ease the burden of sorrow. That the Almighty also helps to ease the burden of sorrow, not only on the families of the deceased, but also upon all those who knew him and those who have passed on with him, and also upon a nation in mourning. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Kaula.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister Pepeto, colleagues, on behalf of the President of the IFP, Prince Buthelezi, and the entire IFP family, we wish to express our deep and sincere condolences to the Chabane family, to Minister Chabane's mother, to Minister Chabane's wife and her 2 children, and to Minister Chabane's brothers and sisters. We want to say to them as a family that indeed you gave birth to and raised a dearest son of the soil. We also wish to extend our condolences to Minister Chabane's political home, the African National Congress, for which he sacrificed his life and dedicated himself to its services. Minister Chabane's passing away is not just a loss to the ANC, but it is a loss to the entire country. He was the kind of a person who was a genuine South African asset. Minister Chabane was a very humble, down-to-earth person. My first personal encounter with him was in a lift at a hotel in Durban when he was still minister in the presidency. I was with Mrs. Kaula. We greeted him and spoke a little about this and that. When we came out of the lift, I said to Mrs. Kaula, that is a minister in the presidency. Her reaction was, oh, but why is he walking alone? That is the perception that people have of the people we have in government. So his was a very different kind of approach to things. In the NCOP, during question times, Honorable Minister Chabane displayed a caliber of someone very knowledgeable on his portfolio. Whenever responding to follow-up questions, the spontaneous information he would give you would always be as qualitative as the written, prepared information.
I occasionally hear people saying that dynamite comes in small packages. It was indeed a big dynamite in that small package. On behalf of the IFP, I want to say, rest in peace, Nyamazan.
Thank you. Honorable Keila.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members. Our history has been marked with achievements by individuals who fought for a cause they believed in. Late Minister Chabane was one of those individuals. He has been an inspiration among many others, many of our leaders. His humble nature only made him most likable. Excellence starts with leaders of good and strong character. Late Minister Chabane has been a gift to South Africa from the time he was imprisoned in 1984. He served the institution of Parliament, whereby he served on Constitutional Affairs, Defence and Intelligence Committee in 1994. In 1997, he was appointed in the cabinet of the Limpopo government, whereby he served. In 1998, he served in the public works as a MEC, where he is credited as having established the province's road agency. He also served as a minister in the presidency, where he made positive contribution to meaningful change. He left us while serving as a Minister of Public Service and Administration. South Africa has lost one of its greatest sons. On behalf of the United Democratic Movement, we send our sincere condolence to his party, his family. As you comprehend this profound loss, let yourself cry, knowing each tear is a note of love rising to heavens. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Dikhale.
Friends, South Africans, countrymen, lend me your ears, for I have come to pay tribute to Collins Chabane, not to praise him. My honor to the Honorable Minister and the Vice Chair and Honorable Members. I am beginning my motion by paraphrasing the historic Mark Anthony during the funeral of Julius Caesar. I am doing so because Minister Chabane died on the 15th of March, which corresponds to the 8th of March in the old Roman calendar, which is the day on which Julius Caesar was killed. As South Africans, we will forever beware this day, 15th of March, as the day on which we were robbed of one of the selfless and self-sacrificing leaders that this country has ever produced. House Chairperson, Minister Chabane's passing has brought grief from his home, Shikundu village, in Limpopo to all South Africans in communities all around our beloved country. The abundance of eulogies of those who knew the minister well in the past few days, their admiration impossible to convey in words alone, are an indication of what kind of a man Minister Chabane was. These accounts have come from Minister Chabane's political contemporaries, both friend and few, from present-day leaders, the media fraternity, and Minister Chabane's closest friends and family. Some of the most enlightening and moving comments have come from those whose politics were not those of Chabane's, which itself shows the reach of his grand stature and personality. It also shows that in death, as in life, this visionary leader has the power to emote and to aspire. All sides have praised his courage, his vision, his reforming instincts, and his parliamentary style. In each of these qualities, Minister Chabane had very few peers. All this points to one thing, and that is, by all accounts, the late Public Service and Administration Minister Collins Chabane was a person this country could not afford to lose. Minister Chabane was a man of many talents, but in his own words, he was first and foremost a politician. So in the African National Congress, we are mourning the loss of a great politician and hero of the liberation movement. This is the movement that he joined when he was only 17 years old, when he could have enjoyed being a normal teenager, but because of his nature of being self-sacrificing, he forwent these niceties of being a teenager and entered into the unknown and dangerous life of liberation struggle. That is why he was always on the run from the apartheid police and earned the nickname Inyamazane, the animal. Just like other fighters who were chased by the security branch, he was later arrested and caged like an animal on Robben Islands for 10 years. All caged animals are always angry. When they come out of the cage, they are angry. They will always fight for and mark their territories. This also happened to this animal, Collins Chabane, and his territory was not only in politics. Minister Chabane was also a musician, music being at the forefront of his extramural activity and number one hobby. He taught himself to play the harmonica and guitar and studied music theory while serving 10 years for terrorism on Robben Island. And from then onwards, she never looked. Later, Zimbabwean musician Thomas Mapfumo taught him to play the imbira or finger piano, and he formed the band movement. This band has released albums that have songs such as Kholin Hlanhla, Limpopo Shai Shai, and many more. This shows the many talents that Minister Chabane had. It was thus not surprising that in May 2010, he was honored for his contribution to South African music when he was presented with a plaque by the South African Music Rights Organization, SAMRO, to celebrate his musical journey. At least, we will always hear his voice in these songs. Fellow South Africans, Shigundu has lost a son, Limpopo has lost a father figure, and South Africa has lost a leader. The African National Congress has lost the animal, Inyamazane. In my language we say, Mokgapa o mogolo o wele gomme dinonyane di tlo šala di lla bošogošogo. Re robala ka khutšo mogalo wa bagale and lela e kurula. We also want to extend our deepest condolences to the families of Sergeant Sekele and Lenzwane, his bodyguards, for their loss. May their souls rest in peace. I thank you.
Thank you. In celebrating the life of a father, a minister, a leader, a comrade well lived, allow me to remark by saying I'm one of the people that can claim to have been assisted, Honorable Minister. I once been given opportunity to preside in a joint sitting, and it was a tense situation and a first experience, and I was so tense because presiding in a joint sitting and in the NSOP is a totally different. Then a lady came to deliver a note to that was saying, allow me to be the first woman to request you for supper this night. Then I was smiling reading this note, looking at all these people. And I called the lady who delivered the message because there is no signature of the woman who's inviting me for supper. And I asked the woman, who gave you this note? And he said, no, he showed me, the late Chabane, and he was smiling, looking at the back. So he had a sense of humor in abundance and assisted me to relax and be comfortable at that chair in a joint sitting. Let's all rise and observe a moment of silence. Honorable members, we now come to the subject for discussion as printed on the order paper. Let me take this opportunity welcoming and invite our Minister of Higher Education and Training, Honorable Dr. Zimande.
House Chair, Honorable Nyambi, honorable members of this august chamber, the NCOP, let me start by associating myself and my department with the motion that we've just adopted, expressing condolences on the passing away of Honorable Minister of Public Service and Administration, Collins Chabane, Comrade Enema, as it was said, together with his bodyguards. Honorable Chair, today's subject of debate requires a comprehensive rather than a narrow, silo-based approach. It requires us to really grasp the nature of the challenge we face. It's a very important subject, by the way. The challenge facing us is twofold. Firstly, our education system has been almost exclusively academically oriented. Everybody is expected to do a largely, if not exclusively, academic matric and then proceed to university. If you don't do that, it's a cul-de-sac, it's the end of your life. That's what we must change. This means that we don't cater fully for a variety of education and training needs beyond just the narrow academic pathway. Therefore, to try to answer the subject of today's debate from the standpoint of students in higher education only would not properly address the question of the funding needs of poor youth as a whole. It would instead focus exclusively on only a section of them. It is against this background that our department has come up with and developed an innovative concept of post-school education and training, the provision of which needs to be expanded and diversified in order to cater for the needs of both youths and adults. In other words, the challenge is to cater for education and training needs of the more than 20 million adult South Africans, young and old, who are no longer at school or have never attended school. Our funding for post-school education and training must therefore attend to this entire spectrum in order to cater for the varied skills needs of our economy. Honorable Chair and honorable members, our 2011 national census tells us that we have more than 3.3 million youth between the ages of 16 and 24 in our country who are neither in employment, education, or training. Some of them, though a declining percentage, have either never been to school or have not attended beyond primary school. Others have gone beyond primary school but dropped out before reaching matric. Yet still others have written matric but cannot access university or get employment, thus remaining trapped in what we may call a post-school cul-de-sac. We also have about 17 million adults, according to our own research, over 24 years of age who need adult education opportunities. It is in this context that government adopted a white paper on post-school education and training in November 2013. This important policy document envisages a post-school system with 3 formal education institutional types: universities, colleges, especially your technical and vocational and training colleges, and a new institutional type called community colleges. These are not in any order of ranking, by the way, because each serves a very particular purpose to address our educational and skills development needs in particular, and to build a vibrant and responsive post-school education and training system. But these formal institutions, universities, colleges, and community colleges, must have a dynamic linkage to workplaces, both formal and informal workplaces, as well as public and private workplaces. This would ensure that work-integrated learning is central to our post-school system, as must be the availability of internships, learnerships that are dynamically linked to and articulate with the programs in the formal educational institutions. Honorable Chairperson, there is nothing that breaks my heart like you go to a restaurant, you find young people there. Some of them who are working as waiters, some of them are there as temporary labor who do not get paid except they rely on tips. And they are not registered with any college. Yet you go outside in our townships and villages, you find youth that have gone to TVET colleges but are not in any workplace. So that is why it is important, this idea of linking college education and workplaces as well as unemployed with internship and learnership opportunities become crucial. Our SETAs, the Sector Education and Training Authorities, the National Skills Fund, and employers, both in the public and private sectors, have a crucial role to play in building a dynamic relationship between education and training institutions and workplaces. In other words, these young workers I'm talking about in restaurants and hotels should ideally be doing practical work as part of their studies in colleges. Therefore, when we talk about the challenge of a lasting solution to the funding needs of needy students, we should focus on sustainable funding for the entire post-school system so that it is expanded, diversified, and able to respond to the needs of the entire population. It is therefore against this background that the government has responded to this challenge in a manner I will briefly outline now. In other words, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, much as funding is important, it is not only funding that is the most critical thing. It is also channeling our youth into different sides of opportunities and not only the academic pathway that I spoke about at the beginning. Because you can put a lot of money into one pathway, but in the process you leave numbers of young people who are not interested in that pathway, who are interested in pursuing other opportunities. So let me talk about then what has been this government's initiatives to open the doors of learning in post-school education and training. We remain committed as the ANC government in realizing the vision as contained in the Freedom Charter, as we celebrate its 60 years this year. One of the goals of the Department of Higher Education and Training is to increase the number of skilled youth by expanding access to post-school education and training. In terms of the white paper, the department is committed to increase student enrollments to 2.5 million in technical vocational education and training colleges and 1.6 million in universities by 2030. In other words, we must invert this pyramid that we have now of having more students at university than at colleges. No other country in the world does that. We must have more students in colleges. The trick is, if you have gone to a college, you must then not be prevented or your qualification not to be recognized in case you choose to proceed to university. It's articulation, so that you don't feel that having gone to a college, we are stuck in a cul-de-sac. We want by 2030 1 million students in community colleges. In a bid to achieve this goal, the department has significantly increased the funds available for student loans and bursaries, particularly through the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, which in short we refer to as NSFAS. Government has made significant progress in terms of increased access of students from the working class and the poor to higher education. Since its inception in 1991, as the Tertiary Education Fund of South Africa. By the way, we imposed this on the then President F.W. de Klerk, even before 1994. The ANC at the time and said, we need this fund. This fund has awarded approximately 41.5 billion in loans and bursaries to about 1.4 million students between 1991 and 2014. An important milestone over the past 6 years has been the expansion of NSFAS beyond universities and for the first time into TVET colleges. NSFAS this year will be assisting 205,000 first-time entering and continuing eligible students at our now 26 public universities and 200,000 students at 50 technical and vocational education and training colleges. And by providing student loans and bursaries totaling over 9.5 billion rands this year alone. In 2008, by the way, there was no such funding for TVET colleges. And in 2010, there was only 310 million, for such bursaries. And today for TVET colleges, such bursaries now are over 2 billion rands, around 2.1 billion. Our department's NSFAS budget for 2015-16 now amounts to 6.4 billion and comprises 4.4 billion of university study loans and 2.2, actually to be specific, billion for TVET colleges. Now, other notable donor funding sources include funds from NSFAS recoveries, in other words, those who are paying back, having been assisted, which this year will amount to 453 million. And also there is money from the Department of Basic Education for Funza Lushaga teacher bursaries, as well as the Department of Social Development for social work bursaries, as well as monies from the SETAs. NSFAS has earmarked 69.3 million in the 2015 academic year to provide financial aid to disabled students in universities, and includes a component that enables students with disabilities to acquire assistive devices. Perpetwa ngizwile. Nabangaboni njengawe ngane yakwethu siyabasiza ngoba kusho ukuthi ukungaboni sekufanele ukuthi ube yisara. Certain categories of assistance are in the form of bursaries rather than loans and need not be repaid. Instead, they can be repaid in service rather than in cash. NSFAS has also made a qualitative difference to the lives of students from poor families. Most of these students we support have been the first from their families ever to attend a university or a college. Abokuqala ukuthi bagqoka amajazi emndenini abavela kuyona. The majority have benefited greatly from the scheme, providing skills to the South African economy and benefiting both themselves and their families. Mr. Ketelo Richmond Nkula, a NSFAS beneficiary, recently said, and I quote, "I completed my high school education at Philadelphia School for the Physically Challenged in Pretoria, where I received my matric in 2005. I studied at Walter Sisulu University with assistance from NSFAS. My bursary paid all of my study costs. My graduation was truly a joyous day, all thanks to NSFAS," unquote. Nevertheless, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we still face enormous challenges, as many students, despite our best efforts, cannot proceed with their studies due to lack of financial resources. But this must not distract from the fact that government has given a lot of money, inadequate as it may be. In addition, by the way, we have had other opportunities, especially for young people who are out of school. For example, over the last 2 financial years, we've provided 12 months learnerships to 179,143 learners and 12 to 18 months internships to 18,411 beneficiaries. Our research says 75% of interns actually end up getting employed. To fully fund all qualifying NSFAS students and meet the goals of the National Development Plan, an amount of 36 billion rands for university and 15 billion rands for TVET college students is required over the MTEF period. We also, by the way, have to pay attention to, which is something we've started to do, to university fees. For instance, NSFAS has increased by 4.6%, but university fees have increased by an average of 9%, which is a challenge that we actually have to deal with. Because higher fees implies fewer and fewer students that are supported by NSFAS. Also, the administration we wish to admit of NSFAS is often less than efficient. And my department and the board of NSFAS are looking at ways to improve its functioning, cut unnecessary costs, and eliminate delays in awarding of loans. One of the critical challenges we have is to recover funds. The 453 million we recover is not enough. We are improving on our system. We even discover, by the way, that some of the younger people who are working for my own department were NSFAS beneficiaries, but are not paying back. So we want to work with SARS now in order to address this problem. NSFAS has been tasked to identify also and forge partnerships with private donors with the aim to increase funding for poor and needy students. Now, I have also requested, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, NSFAS to explore ways to fund students who traditionally do not meet the means test for the current funding criteria, but who also do not qualify for funding from the commercial institutions as well. For instance, NSFAS says you must earn 122,000 rands or less total family income. But a family with 150,000 rands income can't afford university, for instance. So we urgently need to find ways to provide for this group. And who is this group? It's often the children of teachers, nurses, and many other civil servants and artisans and clerical workers. So we are currently engaging some of the development finance institutions and other publicly held funds to find ways to address this challenge, so as to expand access to education for academically deserving students who come from families that are poor. It has also been widely reported, Chair and Honorable Members, that the challenge of inadequate funding is exacerbated by gross mismanagement of the scheme in NSFAS, in colleges and universities. We are detecting also that there is lots of corruption from officials in our institutions and even students. You find there are students who are actually benefiting, who do not deserve to be benefiting from this. Sometimes you find a NSFAS beneficiary with a flat screen TV in his or her room. That tells you that there is something. By the way, I've spoken and engaged some SRCs. They say, no, Minister, we know about it. And I say, but why are you not telling us who are these? No, Minister, you know, we can't do that. This is our constituency and so on. So we are doing a complete forensic investigation into this, so that this money benefits those who deserve. In conclusion, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, the Freedom Charter says, and I want to quote, higher education and technical training shall be opened to all by means of state allowances and scholarships awarded on the basis of merit, unquote. Indeed, this government, this ANC government has done this despite the constraints and challenges we have and still face. So singakusho nje singahlonizi, singananazi ukuthi lo hulumeni oholwa umsholozi siyaqhubha. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Now I'll call the Honorable Chair of the Select Committee, Honorable Zwane.
Honorable Chairperson of the House, Honorable Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nzemande, Honorable Members of Parliament in the NSOP, Honorable Delegates that are with us this afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The President of the ANC during January 8 statement confirmed that education still remains an apex priority for the ANC government. Similarly, the State President, His Excellency Jacob Zuma, in the State of the Nation address, reiterated that education remains the apex priority of present-day government. He has always asserted that education is a societal issue, meaning education is not the burden of only government, but all society should come together to ensure that we give the support that we need to give. It could be financial support, it could be various other forms of support to education. South Africa spends 5% of the gross domestic production on education broadly, and 1.4% of gross domestic production on higher education only. The budget that gets allocated to the Education Department of Higher Education gives expression to the prescripts of the Freedom Charter, where it says, and I quote, "The door of learning and culture shall be opened to all," close quotation. The ANC is a leader of society and a party in government. And from 1994, during every general election, its mandate has always been renewed overwhelmingly by the electorate to ensure that government policies and programs are implemented and services are delivered to the people. And one major service that the ANC government has delivered to the people is education. The minister has actually said that a lot of money has been invested by government into higher education. But we do want to acknowledge the fact that as much as a lot has been invested, but we still have got to cover a lot of ground in terms of ensuring that we reach out to many more students that deserve to be assisted. So during the past 21 years of being in government, we've got many good stories to tell. To develop a sustainable economy and state infrastructure that will improve the quality of life of the people, the visionary government of the ANC realizes the need for the labor force to become equipped with knowledge and requisite skills that can be obtained through education and training. An educated citizenry provides the best hope for preserving democratic, thriving economic security, and even promoting world peace. It is regrettable that many young people still face the barrier to higher education due to family income. The minister is actually citing an example of children that are born of different professionals. A level one professional cannot afford taking a child to varsity, let alone when they've got two or three children to take to varsity. It is practically impossible. And I'm happy that the Department of Education is actually beginning to look into that particular cohort of people that are public servants but cannot send their children to universities. It is a matter of grave concern, and people are speaking about it and calling upon our government to look into it quite seriously. And I'm happy that something is beginning to happen. Commitment to free public higher education is a great fiscal burden or commitment. And as a result, we have to ensure that there are mechanisms in place to ensure that the students that we take either to TVET colleges or universities actually obtain their qualifications or degrees. There is nothing more disappointing like you would send students to TVET colleges and universities and they remain there for half a term or a couple of years. They don't finish their degrees. They don't finish their qualifications because now it is counterproductive. We don't get any return on investment as a government. The reason why we send them in the first instance is for them to get a qualification and come back from there and make a meaningful contribution in the workplace and in the economy of the country. And if they don't finish their qualifications, then it is a waste. So there has to be programs in TVET colleges and universities that are meant to support those students that are finding difficulties with the content of the modules that they are handling in order to reduce student attrition. Higher education has never been so important, but also it has never been so expensive. So we must use the little amount that we had. We had the minister say that the budget for NSFAS as we speak is in the region of about 6 billion. That is no small amount of money. It was not there before. Now it is available during this ANC-led government. If Uferwood were to wake up from the grave, really, I think you'd look for the best tree to hang himself. Because labo bantwana esikwazile ubathumelele emavasithi nasemakoliji yena wayezocabanga ukuthi nje bogcina ngokukha amanzi batheze inkuni noma basebenzele ubasi. So I want to say thank you to the ANC government for being visionary and lifting our poor children out of poverty and sending them to educational institution in order for them to be able to earn a decent living. According to World Bank statistics, 54% of the labor force in Russia has been to a tertiary college or an institution of higher learning. In South Africa, we're still lagging far behind this percentage because of the atrocities of apartheid. Access to higher education is not simply about a place for a student to study at a university, according to Walimaro, but access is also about ways of knowing that sustains universities. Access allows students to participate fully and effectively in higher education. While success is not merely about graduating from an academic program, it also relates to the quality of the programs and the teaching of these programs, the kinds of skills and attributes with which students leave university or TVET colleges, including their preparedness for the world of work and their ability to enter employment as successful graduates. The minister also has made mention of the fact that it is a really concerning factor where you find that students have graduated but they cannot be placed in the world of work, probably because maybe they didn't study what is required by the industry. So this planning of what needs to be formulated in the way of, by way of modules and programs in universities and TVET colleges requires not only the Department of Education but also industry and business, so that whatever we develop as programs is relevant to the world of work, so that our children can be able to use their knowledge and skills in the workplace. As a result of NSFAS, the number of students that have been enrolled in TVET colleges has increased exponentially from 360,000 in 2010 to 670,000 455 in 2013. This is a good story to tell. The plight of poor students has been addressed by increasing access to NSFAS. And further than that, we do want to appreciate the student-centered model that the department is introducing, that of funding students not only for the first year, but actually taking them through from the first year up until they complete. I think that is actually commendable, because funding them for only part of the period is not assisting them. But by the same token, we are looking forward to a situation where they show appreciation by focusing on their studies and actually yielding a positive result for that kind of support that they're getting from our government. The other issue that is of grave concern, Minister, is the issue of student accommodation. I'm happy that when I looked through the budget, I did see a sum of about 1.6 billion that the department is setting aside to ensure that the student accommodation is being refurbished in other universities and TVET colleges, and in other areas it is built from scratch. I say so because we found that parents fall prey to exploitation of people that are charging them exorbitant amounts of money for student accommodation. And if the department is then coming to the party to actually assist in this regard, we are going to save the parents from being exploited by these sharks. We also want to appreciate the fact that students in higher education are now entering into fields that we never thought they would venture into before. We now have students that are qualified in actuarial sciences, the actuaries, although it's only 6% of the qualified actuarial scientists are blacks. We still want to up the number and improve on that, but we take pride in the fact that we never thought that we would have students qualified in those fields as well. They are enjoying from the subsidy that is given to the universities. We have students that are now geophysicists. I do want to particularly acknowledge a boy from KZN, a geophysicist, Umusamanzi from KZN. Umusamanzi has done us proud because he is now having a PhD in geophysics. And he has collected awards locally and internationally because of the kind of work that he is doing that is assisting the area of gold mining. I do want to say that we also do appreciate programs that are producing more doctors and veterinary scientists and all those areas, and engineers, all those areas that the blacks previously were scared of taking because of the manner in which the education of the black people was structured. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. It will be in order of me because the government has made education a priority. I wouldn't want to spoil an education. So speakers that are coming will do like the two that have exceptionally good. There's a time that is there. You just look at your right. I don't want to spoil the education. It's a priority of government. Our next speaker is our Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee in the Eastern Cape Province, Honorable Fihlane.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, permanent delegates, special delegates like me, Yaske, let's go. This is Nabil. Chair, I think, firstly, I must appreciate the opportunity of standing in this house. It's for the first time for me, Chairperson, to be here. Even for entering the house for the first time, because I know Old Assemble. I'm serious, I know Old Assemble. I nearly went on that side, Minister, and I was told, no, it's this side. But that's an opportunity that has been afforded to me by the African National Congress, because there are so many who have not even been afforded that opportunity to stand here. I think we can never just leave it like that. I think it's a big opportunity for us to do that. We say as a Freedom Charter, Chairperson directs us that doors of learning shall be open for all. As the African National Congress government, we heeded that call. As institutions of higher learning are full to capacity, to an extent of having huge numbers that are on the waiting list as we speak. A large number of students come from poor backgrounds and are faced with societal challenges of unemployment, inequality, and poverty. To effect the social redress, NSFAS was established. As the Minister has said, it was even before the democratic breakthrough, Mtaka. And other bursaries are there, but though they are not enough, but at least there is a mark that they are doing within our own society. It's clear that the money that is set aside for NSFAS is really not enough, and is unable even to take all those students who have heeded the call, which was made by our forebearers when they were charting the way forward, giving us the way through the Freedom Charter, which has been a guide and a compass here too, as the African National Congress. In the Eastern Cape, House Chair, there has been a qualitative improvement in the grade 12 results. Noba ke sibanga umkanja, uyatsho ku-SG pha, ati honorable SG of the African National Congress, honorable. Adla kathi sibanga umkanja, but there is a qualitative improvement. It was worse in the class of 2014, where you could find learners coming from the far-flung areas, not even on the former model school schools. I'm talking of the far-flung areas, like Abo St. James and Tofimvaba. Some learners, they are learning using candles, but in other areas you could find that there's electricity. But they even surpassed learners who are in the affluent areas. But I think that's why I'm saying at least we have qualitative improvement over the years, though we can be in the bottom last. We say, but there's a majority that needs financial assistance. Thousands of learners, they still seek the financial assistance yearly. And majority of them, some are not even assisted because there are so many who have heeded that call. The Office of the Premier has its own assistance program to support the needy students. In this regard, they've entered into an agreement with NSFAS to administer the fund on its behalf. The learners are taken to various institutions across the country, but 90% of the fund is for those 4 institutions of higher learning. But there has to be a direct focus now to the TVET, as the Minister was saying, because that's the other area that has not been, that we've not been focusing on for quite some time. We're focusing especially on the institutions of higher learning, which are universities and former technicals. But the most important sector is clear that the TVETs are also very important because they are focusing on skills, which are also needed in our society, in our day-to-day work. Progress so far, we say about 13,446 students have been supported across the province with deliberate focus at U. Walter Sisulu University. Why that? Most of the learners, they go seek schools in variety of universities, but when they are not taken in those areas, they'll come to the Walter Sisulu University. So that's why I'm saying the deliberate focus, a bigger slice will go to the Walter Sisulu University. 173.436 million has been made available, with 154.79 million allocated to 4 institutions in the province. As I have said, I'm not going to go down to some of the issues. But the most important areas are said, the technical vocational education and training colleges has still a lot of students who need support, and some of them, they are excluded academically due to the challenges of e-finances. We propose, House Chair, the increase in the base funding. NSFAS should at least increase by 50% immediately, 75%, and double over the MTEF if we want to find a short-term relief. That is still a short-term relief. We also propose a provincial contribution, which could be about 100 million per year, each and every province to have a contribution. That fund can be administered separately from the NSFAS. And we must also partner with private sector. What the minister was talking about here, the issue of the management of the fee structure of the universities because of the institutions of higher learning, we still married to that, minister, that word of universities, to the fee structures of the institutions of higher learning, because as you have said that they've increased at 9%, yet when you talk of the NSFAS, you'll still find that at 4%. So I think that management is the Department of Higher Education must work with the institutions of higher learning to ensure affordability without compromising quality, of course. Improve the administration process of NSFAS. We welcome the forensic investigation in terms of the maladministration that is in there, because also we suspect, we cannot say for sure, but we also suspect that there is really some maladministration where we stand, some learners are, some students are unable to be assisted. You split the available funding. Currently, most funding, and NSFAS is funding at 60%. Then the side of the loan, then the bursary is at 40%. You create that 100% loan category. I'm sure it's what the minister was also talking about, to assist those that do not fit the benchmark purposes of NSFAS. And then that loan could be underwritten by NSFAS itself with their own repayment terms. We also welcome the role that has been played by SRCs of various institutions, including Walter Sisulu University. I don't know which else, but I know some, even your Nelson Mandela, that one used to be University of Port Elizabeth, where they have some sort of funding that they are also collating to assist the needy students. Working together, we can achieve the free education for all.
Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable Groenewald.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, members of the NCOP, guests. The Honourable Minister said a lot of good things and also positive things, but the department failed to implement and bring it to practice. When the DA is in the national government, we will implement a policy that assures more students are financially assisted when they are entering higher education. Nelson Mandela's words are stark, reminder of the importance of education. I quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." The National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NAFSAS, is an important tool to access education. As its vision prescribes, NAFSAS is a model public entity that provides financial aid to public, university and technical and vocational education and training, college students from poor and working class families. Agbare voorsitter, dit is waarna ons moet strewe en werk. Bereik ons dit? Ek is jammer om te sê, maar NAFSAS toon agteruitgang en nie vooruitgang nie. Die DA kyk graag saam met u hoe ons volhoubare oplossings kan kry vir finansiële steun vir behoeftige studente in hoër onderwys. Now, where do we start? With only 9 billion being allocated to NAFSAS, approximately 20% of our education budget, can we allow any of this money to go waste? As ons toelaat dat korrupsie voortduur, sal Suid-Afrika een van die swakste presteerders wees van hoër onderwys. Considering recent corruption allegations, we welcome the minister's set up of a task team, a process the DA will follow closely. One of the biggest obstacles to students seeking financial assistance is the lack of clear communication relating to NAFSA's processes and policies. At a time when a student transitions from high school to higher education, we should not give false hope due to lack of communication. Having timeless, open and honest communication with students could prevent the many student protests that flare up during the start of the academic year. Every year, the academic year starts with a fight between students and the universities because of a lack of funds. Students pay the price by not able to enroll because of no financial assistance for enrollment fees, class fees, study material and accommodation. As ons kyk na die studente se betogings, moet die rooi ligte vir ons aangaan. Ons moet erken dat daar groot probleme met NAFSA se finansiering is. Om maar een voorbeeld te noem, kyk na gewelddadige aktiwiteite wat onlangs plaasgevind het by Tshwane, Universiteit vir Tegnologie, TUT. Die studente het betoog oor 'n gebrek aan NAFSA se finansiering. We need to contextualize the funding challenges facing universities in the short and medium term. We should consider a call on the private sector to make a contribution. Furthermore, we need to look into the social sector between companies, the private sector and government to see what contributions they could make to education. We should not only focus on funding but also investigate the number of students who cannot be funded due to the historic debt. There was a misunderstanding that additional funds would be secured to settle the debts, but there were no additional funds allocated. This will not happen under the DA government. The DA will ensure that students are only admitted when offers are confirmed. Honourable Chairperson, whilst we focus on the most vulnerable and needy of our students, we must also not forget the middle class. The family income threshold for a student to qualify for financial support is too low, 180,000 per year. It shows that one has to be desperately poor to receive it. This leaves out many academically talented children of teachers, nurses, police, and others who have an income that is above what is needed to qualify for NAFSAs, but who have an income too low where they are not able to afford paying university fees. This means you have to be desperately poor or wealthy to afford higher education in South Africa. The DA will change this by gradually increasing NAFSA's budget to 16 billion so that no student is denied further education because they cannot afford it. 'n mooi voorbeeld word gevind by die wit studente wat hulle geldtekort aangepak het. Hulle het dit self gedoen. Die fokus het op 8 Maart 2015 op 2 miljoen gestaan. Die projek is verlede maand uit nood gebore. Honderde terugkerende studente kon nie registreer nie, omdat die staat se studenteleningsskema NAFSAS nie die beloofde geld aan wits kon oorbetaal nie. Meer as gegoede studente het elkeen R100 geskenk. Radiostasies het 'n veldtog verder geneem en die publiek het R100,000 elk geskenk en groot skenkings ontvang van koöperatiewe sektor. 'n Paar honderd studente kon gehelp word. U sien, agbare voorsitter, waar daar 'n wil is daar 'n weg. In short, when the DA governs South Africa and manage NAFSAS, we will do the following: improve the loan collection and replenish the funding scheme. Include the business community and private sector to make significant contributions to bolster the scheme's coffers in order to develop a sustainable student financial aid program. Impose a gradual tax on those who have acquired higher education in order to generate much needed financial resources to support financially needed students. Look into financial institutions finding creative mechanisms of providing affordable student loans to children from the middle income group. Encourage the use of skills levy funding for both short course and long-term studies at universities and Fed colleges. Support the use of preferential funding for the development of scarce skills. Die belangrikste, en u moet baie mooi luister nou, agbare voorsitter, van enige universiteit of instelling, is die beleid van so 'n instelling moenie onderskat word nie. Dit is die basis waarvan dan gewerk moet word. Sonder 'n werkbare, goed deurdagte beleid stort alles ineen, soos ons dit nou reeds ervaar. Die DA is die enigste party wat die visie van Nelson Mandela ernstig opneem. Ons kan NEFSA se huis in orde kry, soos oud-president Nelson Mandela ons herinner. Together we can build an education nation and take the continent of Africa forward to claim his rightful place in the global stage. I thank you.
On a point of order, Chair.
Yeah.
The members should desist from confusing the public at the August House that DA will ever be in power.
Unfortunately, the speaker has concluded, Honorable Clark. Honorable Vauda. Honorable Vauda.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, Honorable members. I greet all of you with Assalamu alaikum. The past 20 years have not yielded much significance for the people of South Africa, and although a few strides have been made here and there regarding education, still not much has changed. Our higher education continues to produce and reproduce class, racial, gender, and other inequalities with regards to access to equal opportunities and education. The Department of Higher Education has aborted its responsibility of providing access to education for successful and sustainable economic development and growth, but has instead opted for being a slave breeder who keeps our children undereducated and denies them access to quality education and sustainable economic opportunities. It continues to ensure that local corporates and employers and foreign multinational corporates have abundant cheap labor to exploit and discard at will, while the rest of our children have no option but to remain drawers of water and hewers of wood. Higher education in South Africa is highly commercialized and is more of a privilege for the elite and for those who can afford than it is a basic human right. Why else are thousands of deserving learners turned away by higher learning institutes annually simply because they have been disappointed by NSFAS and cannot afford to pay tuition fees? almost 50% of the applications from students who qualify for financial aid are declined, discouraging young people who don't have any other option for furthering their studies and pushing them back to the generational poverty cycle most South African families are unfortunately victims of. Although provisions for NSFAS has quadrupled to over 9.5 billion rand in the past 5 years, this increase is unacceptable to cater for the ever-increasing numbers of academically deserving and financially needy students in this country. Neither has the injection of 1 billion rand by the Honourable Minister of Higher Education and Training at the beginning of this year. NSFAS is just a loan scheme that is primarily depending on the money from beneficiaries defaulting on their student loans and whose main aim is to accrue profits than educate the nation. A more sustainable solution to the crisis at hand must be found. Even if students wanted to pay back the money, most of them neither have the means to pay for the proper, nor do they have the proper qualifications to get stable jobs so they can afford to pay back. It takes some years before they get employed. The picture shows that we have serious deep-rooted issues that need urgent attention from the government, besides funding to ensure that our students graduate in numbers and are able to actively participate and contribute to our economy. The Minister of Higher Education, the Honourable Dr. Bladin Zimande, conveniently mentioned the building of 2 universities in Mpumalanga and Northern Cape just before the national elections. These universities, Honourable Minister, will not be enough. Combined can only take less than 500 students, and it will take just above 10 years for them to take up to 20,000 students. Higher learning institutions currently only take up 30% of learners who pass matric. What happens to the remaining 70%? How many learners will we have sitting at home with matric certificates and no universities to go 10 years from now? South Africa is full of natural resources and other contributors to the national economy, but because of the neoliberal trade policies embraced by our government, all strategic sectors of the economy are in a vulnerable position for global markets to freely exploit. Whereas our wealth should be reinvested in the country to ensure provision for our people's needs, especially free education and building more higher learning institutes. Our trade policies need to be reviewed. The EFF calls for education to be made free up to undergraduate, and all pupils and students must be provided with adequate learning support. Scholarships must be funded by government, state-owned enterprises and the private sector to provide educational opportunities for all. All student debts must be cancelled and NSFAS must be abolished. Alternatively, NSFAS can be converted into a micro-loan scheme to assist the most needy students with lunch money, money for clothes and other basic necessities. For the broader picture, we need much greater intervention from the government. It is futile for us to call for land expropriation without compensation and nationalization of mines, banks and other strategic economic sectors under the ANC, which is plagued by corruption and led by leaders who would rather call on state forces to shoot and victimize our people, include parliamentarians in that, instead of accounting to them. We have also noticed how billions of rands are redirected annually from the state to the self-enrichment of politicians, while ministerial handbooks and other forms of legislation have been imported from the apartheid past so that politics can continue accumulating wealth and privileges.
Honourable Mtimonyi.
I want to check if the member is prepared to take a question.
I will see later. Ministerial perks must be reviewed.
Honourable Vauda.
No, sir, we'll see later.
Are you prepared to take a question?
No, sir, we'll see later.
Okay.
Ministerial perks must be reviewed and funds redirected.
Honourable Vauda.
Sure.
Honourable Clerk.
Honourable Chair, the member is manipulating the facts because the minister was here and he gave us all the overview and where the vision is. But he's here manipulating all what the minister is saying. And I think this is not good for the public, because what he's saying is actually not true, because he has heard the truth. He's manipulating it for himself. deliberately.
It's a subject for the debate. Continue, Honorable Vauda.
Ministerial perks must be reviewed and funds
Let me, Honorable
redirected to
Vauda,
needy.
let me save you before your phone is disturbing you. Your time has expired. The Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee from Limpopo, Honorable Fenyan.
Achtbare voorzitter, achtbare minister, achtbare leden van die NCOP. Goedemiddag. Chairperson, it is perhaps important to state at the outset that the unprecedented challenges that confront us in South Africa on matters that address themselves regarding financial assistance for needy students are not unique to us. Globally, the world is experiencing this academic revolution wherein demand for access to higher education exceeds supply of facilities and the concomitant funding thereof. In a manner of speaking, facilities at institutions and universities are literally bursting at their streams, and many needy students who may have accessed them are left stranded, hopeless, and confused. Ultimately, the global society is left with more questions than answers, as some of these so-called dropouts may swell the ranks of the lumpen proletariat that may cause immense problem in the socio-economic cum political situation in the future. Their despair will exacerbate the existence of many social ills that, for an example, afflict our beloved country, even as we speak now. This is the tragedy that we are now faced with, and we need to find answers, and find answers now, Minister. In South Africa in particular, we need to agree that this is a broader societal issue. The Higher Education Department cannot resolve it alone and in a silo. We need to learn from experiences of other developing economies, such as Brazil, wherein access to higher education was increased through the creation of a public-private partnership. The World Bank published a paper wherein it held that public and private sector can join together to complement each other's strengths in providing education services and fast-track the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. The details of this envisaged partnership may be addressed in another meeting elsewhere between government and the private sector. International evidence at our disposal indicates that higher education in itself is a catalyst that is needed to increase development in a country. This realization was corroborated by many utterances attributed to the former president, Mr. Nelson Mandela. It is important to also indicate that government's funding of NEFSAS has increased from 441 million in 1999 to 9.2 billion in 2015. In the current year, only 450 million is expected to be recovered, and this is not acceptable, Minister. But the question we need to ask is whether this funding is adequate and sustainable. The answer surely cannot be in the affirmative. We need to agree that certain things should happen first before funds are disbursed to beneficiaries. We need to accept that nothing should happen until everything that I shall outline in subsequent paragraph is done. This is simply called the return to basics. The following package is proposed for consideration, Minister. In the present setting, government should convert this funding to a repayable loan. and the percentage of which should be worked out as a matter of urgency. My proposal is not, we should not have a bursary, but a loan. Secondly, government should acknowledge that anything that is acquired freely will never be valued by any beneficiary. The principle of reciprocity holds that for any action that is taken, there is a reaction. It also holds that if you receive, you should be expected to give. Otherwise, a dangerous and unsustainable entitlement will ensue on the part of the recipient. This is factual observation, Minister. A socio-economic profiling of students should be done at grade 12 schools, and this should be sent to the department. This information, Minister, should be confirmed when a beneficiary receives funding. A beneficiary's details should be sent to SARS immediately. A beneficiary is about to complete studies or drops out for a variety of reasons. Beneficiaries should be reminded that this intervention by government is a loan that is repayable. Beneficiaries' progress at the institution should be closely monitored, and reports should be submitted to the department periodically. Government should acknowledge that one cannot pay and not monitor progress or otherwise of the beneficiary. He who pays the piper calls the tune. You can't pay and not monitor. Government may exchange notes with the Russian government on the funding and monitoring of students at higher education institutions. Their movements are strictly monitored and controlled. And in Russia, it is said, when a person has a master's degree, is not educated. Which means, at any other setting in Russia, if you were to throw a stone upwards, it may fall on the head of a person with a master's degree or a doctoral degree. And I had a privilege to visit the Patrice Lumumba University. Students' movements in and out of the campus is strictly monitored. And when you ask Russians, they tell you that you can't pay and not monitor and control. Recoveries of monies owed should be done through SARS, the criminal justice system, and professional debt collectors. Administration of nesters should be done by officials who have passed a probity test. That all of them should be reminded of their fiduciary responsibility. That there should be constant and productive communication between the department, tertiary institutions, and NEPSAS officials. On a broader socio-cultural, political level, government should impress upon the total populace in South Africa the importance and significance of nationalism, patriotism, and the love for one's country. Government and all organs of civil society should stand up and challenge the promotion of crass materialism, bling acculturation, and individualism that media, in particular TV and the SABC, are promoting on their programs. Programs that are pro-social and that promote social re-engineering and Ubuntu should be flighted on TV and debated on radio. Every person in South Africa who occupies any leadership position should be expected to promote the adoption of civic duties. Corruption and self-enrichment by any leader should not only be punishable, but should be seen to be punishable. None of us should tolerate any deviant behavior on the part of leaders in all spheres of life in South Africa. Government should, as a matter of urgency, have a meeting with print media, Minister, and impress upon it the importance of these discussions that we are talking about. Because every day when you buy a newspaper, the front page would be showing a picture of a woman half naked. We don't need this in society. It destroys society. It destroys the thinking of our youth. And it is incumbent upon government to have a meeting with print media to promote what this society needs. Social cohesion, as a man to my left-hand side say. We need to study and learn from history, Minister, as to what brought about the decline of the Roman Empire, which lasted 50 years. We need to learn from the communist USSR and study at what contributed to its decline. We need to study the economic hegemony of the Western countries that used to prevail over us, and why is it that this hegemony has declined. We need to study the rise and the fall of the 3,000 years of civilization of Egypt and the blight that shapes the kaleidoscope of the socio-economic picture of Africa as we presently know it. Therein, we will learn that the lack of civil duties, which include integrity, honesty, selflessness, so on and so forth, contribute immensely to decadence that retards growth and development in any society in the world. If we do not learn from history, Minister, nothing government will be doing will help this fund become sustainable. Beneficiaries will never repay because we lack this morality. We lack this love for our country and patriotism. Meeting and strategic plan sessions are important, but they are not adequate to address the problems inherent in humanity. Traction, enforcement of implementation of plans, monitoring and evaluations are key to success or otherwise of any human endeavor. I would like to commend what I've said to this august house for consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Stock.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson, our Minister of Higher Education and Training, Honorable Blade Mpepe Twanzimande, special delegates, members of the NCOP, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Chairperson, I think I must first start to take this opportunity to clarify a few sound bites which were made from this particular podium. I think it's important for us always to make a distinction between populism and the principle. Because sometimes as honorable members of this house, we occupy the podium, we want to play into the open gallery and create the perception that everything that we are saying is the truth. And I must demystify the perception that, or disagree rather, with the honorable member Vauda from the EFF, who came to the podium and said, the EFF is proposing that they must scrap the NSFAS, Student Financial Aid Scheme. I think that perception is that proposal is very hypocritical, and we must demystify it as, because one of what the honorable member is not telling the House is that one of their fellow members, who is also a member of parliament in the NA, is also a direct beneficiary by the name of Mr. Honorable Mkitama. The honorable member is not telling us the truth in that regard. And then the honorable member from the DA, Honorable Groenewald, in actual fact, I wanted to address the honorable member in Afrikaans because I could follow everything what the honorable member said when he was at this podium. But I think it's actually misleading the House to create an impression that Nelson Mandela belonged to the DA. Nelson Mandela is a product of the African National Congress. So every time we make reference to Nelson Mandela, I think we must also emphasize and tell the truth as it is, no matter how painful it can be, but we must always tell the truth as it is. Since the establishment of the Department of Higher Education and Training, the department has been developing and supporting post-school education and training sectors, and it has been doing well in promoting access to education, vocational education, and skills development and training opportunities. However, there has been a growing need for advanced learning through tertiary education institutions in the country. Honorable Chairperson, the South African post-school landscape is comprised amongst its educational institutions about 50 public vocational continued education and training colleges, and also 399 are private VCET colleges in the country, as reported in the March statistics. The target growth of the post-school system to 2.5 in 2030 as per the national development, and the continued increase in the matric pass rate alarms for dire need of educational institutions. For instance, Looking at the fact that the VCET headcount enrollments in 2014-2015 financial year reached a total of 657,690 students. This just demonstrates that there's a demand for education and training opportunities by merely the South African youth population. Honorable Chairperson, the yearly target set by the department and the VCT funding norms or models, the lack of space in the tertiary institutions, the distances between these institutions unintentionally contributes to the establishment of the bogus institutions around our country. The department has adopted a multidisciplinary approach in response to these bogus institutions in each province. It uses namely different forms of media communications like your radios, television campaigns, the South African police services, and etc. as a tactic to inform the members of the communities about the colleges. These are part of the initiatives that the department are actually embarking upon to inform the communities about these bogus colleges throughout the country. Additional to that is the sole responsibility of every member to think through the following facts prior to registration at each and every tertiary institution. It is important for each member of the community to check if the college is registered with the department or if it is accredited by the relevant authorities. Honorable Chairperson, the following is the progress that has been made by the ANC-led government since 2009 in regard to the transformation of our education sector. The student headcount enrollment at universities has increased by 12% from 837,779 to 937,455. The second achievement also is that the first-time enrollments at universities has increased by 9% from 164,528 to 528 to 179, 101,000. The third achievement is also that graduates from universities increased by 11% to 160,299. The fourth achievement is that the graduates in engineering sector has increased by 9% from 8,424 to 9,193. The fifth achievement is that the graduates in the women health and animal health increased by 10% from 7,341 to 8,049. Siyakuba Singu Kongolos. The sixth achievement is that the research master's graduates increased by 26% from 4,179 to 5,281. The doctoral graduates increased by 15% from 1,373 to 1,576. In line with the ANC resolutions of the 53rd National Conference of Mangaung, the party said that academically capable students from the poor families should not be expected to pay up front fees in order to access higher education. NASFAS has since allocated a budget for this, and this has minimized student protests at institutions of higher learning in the year 2014 and 2015. Honorable Chairperson, according to the white paper of post-education and training universities, especially in the comprehensive and universities of technology, it will be encouraged to expand the distance higher education for vocationally oriented diploma programs, expanding the higher education sector, which will basically contribute towards the rising incomes, higher productivity, and the shift to a more knowledgeable economy. This is so because the higher education in our country, under the leadership of Minister Nzimande, is the major driver of information and knowledge systems that contributes to economic development. It is, however, a worrying concern to note that South Africans are still being robbed by these fly-by-night institutions in our country, up to date. Additional to this is the fact that the department is unable to quantify or number the total number of these colleges that are continuing to rob our people on a daily basis. And worst of all is that these colleges are actually targeting the poorest of the poor, who can actually not most of the time afford for a better quality education. It is also worth observing that these illegal colleges are prominent in the Johannesburg in the Gauteng region, in the Gauteng province, and also in Durban in the KwaZulu-Natal province compared to other provinces. Lastly, Honorable House Chairperson, we need to acknowledge the work done by the SRC of Wits University in trying to meet our government halfway. And I am raising this because the minister earlier on also indicated that the responsibility to provide quality education to our people, our communities, it must not only be the sole responsibility of government. We must try to look at other initiatives also. The SRC at Wits through its fundraising programs managed to raise over 1 million rand for poor students who couldn't get funding from NSFAS. They have shown leadership and that solutions to students' challenges are not the sole responsibility of government. Abafundi bayancedana. Together we move South Africa forward. Injalo. The SRC of Walter Sisulu University in Mthatha in the Eastern Capes also followed suit but because of the location of the university in the Eastern Cape, it was going to be impossible to raise 1 million rand that the students in Wits University has managed to raise. The leadership of Walter Sisulu in that SRC took an unprecedented bold decision and allocated 900,000 of its annual budget to fund poor students who come from the former Transkei. These are initiatives, these are part of the initiatives of young leaders that we need to acknowledge as honorable members. Siyaqhuba, siyasebenza, re dira go tlala seatla. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Kaula.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, finding a solution, a lasting solution towards the plight of assisting needy students lies in a variety of activities. The National Students Financial Aid Scheme needs to be improved. We need to emphasize the idea of doing more with less. The allocated resources need to be spent wisely and with care. We are still stuck in a situation as a country where our needs far surpass the resources we have. Therefore, spending needs to take this into consideration. We have to stretch our rand to the limit. This will happen if we stop corruption. We stick to the objectives of our programs and our budget, and we hold the transgressors accountable. Tens of thousands of genuinely needy students end up not getting the financial assistance that is due to them, partly because of people who do not qualify. But they are able to corrupt the system and end up benefiting irregularly. Those who do this must be made to pay the price of their actions. The record of the past years of the recovery rate from those who are supposed to pay back the money due to NSFAS is very poor. In order for this to happen effectively, the minister must set up the recovery rate targets for the NSFAS officials. Such targets must be part of their KPAs and KPIs in perpetua in their performance agreements. The monitoring and evaluation of performances of the responsible officials must take into consideration these KPIs in the assessment at the end of the financial year. Failure to meet the targets need to result in bonuses being withdrawn or withheld. The NSFAS revenue cannot solely rely upon government funding. The private sector also needs to come to the party in some kind of a regulated framework. This cannot just be voluntary or optional. It must be regulated. If we maintain that our youth are the future of our country and that future lies in the proper education and proper skilling, the actions need to speak louder than words. Mintiro yabulabula. There is a lot of financial assistance that is offered at provincial and local government level, which ends up being politicized at times. Of course, as a federalist, I do maintain that such assistance needs to remain located at those levels, but must be properly coordinated somehow. This coordination will help to eliminate the irregular practices of double or triple or quadruple benefiting. Someone who has benefited from a local government level, for example, must not go on to also squeeze NSFAS for further assistance. Therefore, the issue of coordination is important. Honorable Fihlani, we can resolve, West University students recently proved that as a collective, we can resolve the funding crisis. They raised over 1 million rand, like my colleague was saying, to help pay for student fees for their colleagues who were unable to pay registration fees. The NSFAS annual report for the year 2013-14 states that Program 1 was able to achieve the planned targets by 62.5%. Program 2 was able to achieve the planned targets by 57%. Surely, this is not good enough. Those responsible for the management of the fund must ensure maximum compliance. There must also be cooperation amongst the different government departments to ensure credibility of information in the consideration of the means test. Therefore, NSFAS or higher education must link and cooperate with the data at Home Affairs, at Social Development, and other relevant stakeholders. This will help ensure that the information provided in the application forms agrees with the personal data that these departments possess on each individual citizen where possible. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Kiveto, Special Delegate from Western Cape. It's Honorable Kivido.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister Blades-Mandi, Honorable members, Honorable Special Delegates, members of the media, I'm latching on to what the fellow member Filani said, Filani from the Eastern Cape. It's a wonderful privilege for me to enter this house, to be part of this family, to address this crowd. It's a wonderful opportunity. I really appreciate it. And then I also want to apologize. I suffer from sinus. I had a sinus.
Sorry, Honorable Damini. Honorable Damini, the mic is on.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'm being intimidated. I just want to check if it is parliamentary to call us a crowd, to address this crowd. I'm just checking. Is it parliamentary? Are we a crowd?
To call us a crowd, it's unparliamentary, but I'll have to check Hansa to see whether that was said.
I said the house.
Yeah.
That was the word I used.
No, Honorable Kivido. Honorable Kivido, you can go
Thank you so
on.
much. Thank you so much, but it is your democratic right to ask. I think what really inspired me was when Minister Benj, I listened attentively to his speech. He never used the word problem, he used the words challenges. And I think we as South Africans should focus more on solving challenges than becoming negative, depressed, and sinking down in a bottomless pit in terms of becoming negative and think we have no outcome. A delicate balance for me is the needy students. When it comes to sustainable funding, is to find a balance between needy students and academically strong students based on merit. That is the first and foremost issue. The other one is a strong thrust towards higher education, where we have increasing numbers on an annual basis of people, of young students, prospective students becoming eligible for higher education and training. So that places a major burden on the fiscal budget of government and also of the communities. And then we are also sitting with a competitive labor market where the driver actually becomes to become educated, skilled and trained in order to secure a job. But it's not only about securing jobs, it's about job retention, it's about accelerated learning, it's about in-house training, it's about, and this is what Minister also referred to, learn by, or learning by doing, and I think that is important. It's more on the pragmatic level. And finally, I think in terms of this scenario, one is to take cognizance of the urban bias, urban-rural bias as well, where the spaces in the rural areas become a little bit more compacted and enclosed, and as far as access and opportunities are concerned, that people are sort of marginalized out of the educational sector, and we have to pay particular attention, especially to our rural brothers and sisters out there, to also get a slice of the cake. I am one of those South Africans believing that our social pathologies and problems, and most of our problems, the solution lies in education. Not solely in education, there may be other imperatives as well, but education being key. There are mitigating factors that keep people away from education and also sideline them or negate them to the outskirts or the sidelines. And I just want to mention a few: poverty, unemployment, especially parents, cash-strapped families, dysfunctional families, disadvantage, imbalance and discrepancy between structure and agency, where there is an imbalance also between structure and agency, especially infrastructure and the agency being human as well as social capital on the other hand. And then also maladministration and misappropriation of funds. There are financial aid schemes. We've heard a lot about NAFSAS. There are others as well that can play a pivotal role in terms of funding and also capacitating our students, and also relieve us of student protest and a violent behavior of students, especially at the beginning of the year, when it comes to registration, and they become frustrated, etc., and they just go on a warpath. So if we can address those issues and spend the money for which it has been was intended, not to waste it on niceties and other luxuries and what have you, I think then we are bound to pick up problems. The CEDAs, for instance, I think the CEDAs, if we bring them into the play a major role, especially in terms of placing students out in internships. Now internships is like volunteerism, from volunteerism towards sustainable employment. And I believe firmly, because I believe God is on the throne also, that it is possible that volunteerism can lead to sustainable job creation. I think, but as we already heard, and I'm not going to elaborate much on this, it's not government's issue alone and responsibility. It's a three-tier government, our local government, provincial and national, to start identifying deserving students and community members, also to open up the avenues for learning, and then assessing them and giving them the chances for learning. Perhaps a larger portion in terms of this education vote, in terms of the budget, we can have a look at that as well, and forging then partnerships with private sector, with business, and also with people with goodwill. I like this word, goodwill. Yeah, it's possible. There are lots of people with goodwill. We are South Africans, we have goodwill. And I think a concerted effort should be placed on aligning structure with agency. Then we can go far out and say, listen, students or prospective students, it's not about handouts. Go out there and get it, and then you'll deserve it more, if you really make an effort also to get there. Building the economy, expanding the economy, I think that is our big dream in South Africa, in terms of building our economy, giving it a thrust, giving it an injection, and taking it forward for all of us, so that we can all become proud South Africans in terms of what we are building and what we are doing. Funding models should be revisited, reconsidered. If NSFAS should be investigated, as Minister also said. Thanks for that. Thanks for taking proactive action in terms of that. And then put the record straight. We are not there to punish and to kick and to, it's about sanctioning, and it's also to be rectified and to make things balance, the credits and the damage balance. I think that is what it's all about. I'm busy concluding. I would also say that in terms of the university training, let's branch out. Let's look again at our trade schools, our vocational training, our schools of skills, where we have exit on grade 9 and grade 9 in terms of the GETC band, General Education and Training Certificate band, where people can go and do artisan work, ambachte, what they call. I still remember, I'm old enough, to still remember Olifantsfontein, where they wrote their trade test, those years, perhaps before your time. Were you there? Okay. So increasing it will also help if we become more pragmatic in terms of vocational training to implement the NDP much better in terms of the implementation and the execution of our NDP. And then our students, whether they are ABET students, and I like the idea of deschooling society, so to speak, in terms of the Paulo Freirean method or model, to give adults the opportunities also to learn. We each one teach one, and we all learn, and we become a learning nation. In conclusion, my dear colleagues, I just want to say that transformation is not only about numbers, but transformation is a key for nation building. And may I, in my last piece of conclusion, say, I am very fond of the DA's slogan of an open opportunity for all. And that is for all. It's for all South Africans. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Julius.
Thank you, House Chair. I really like the notion by the Honorable Minister of a post-school education department as opposed to a higher education department. We must just make sure that we don't confuse it with old school, the post-school, because I think the Minister is still very relevant. Honorable Minister, not all students qualify to study at universities. Those that qualify and want to go and is needy should all get funds. All the others are trapped in where else you can send them. But we don't have enough students going to universities. How can we say don't go there, go elsewhere? Those that can go should go. House Chair, Honorable Stock had a sound bite earlier, and here's a useful sound bite for you too. You know, the legacy of Nelson, the Honorable Nelson Mandela. If you cannot learn from a great leader, you are deemed to fail. And I think of all the times the ANC need it now more than ever, learn from that great man. We can all learn as South Africans. The biggest issue for NSFAS is not only the lack of funds allocated to this scheme, but also how the funding is determined and to whom. The DA wants an increase in the threshold of household income in determining needy students' eligibility for NSFAS funding. It really took the minister a very long time to realize the threshold of 122,000 is a challenge. The DA fought for this for a very long time, and we have all to show for it. I commend you, Minister, for listening to the DA after all. But apart from this threshold, House Chair, we are overlooking the means tests in our universities especially. We don't look at issues of the number of dependents within a family. Household sizes impact heavily on disposable income of families, and it's expensive to have a child on university. Divorced or single-parent headed households with other dependents need a different approach. There are other complexities of a student's background, and that should also be considered because it has an impact on their financial ability. The proposal that NSFAS will execute and disburse funds by themselves by getting officers in higher education institutions, I think this is a waste of time, money, and effort. The money could be better spent on actual bursaries awarded to students. We must learn to trust administrative processes put together by higher education institutions to manage NSFAS. I have a few students that couldn't get bursaries over these years. They work, they qualify, they couldn't qualify to get bursaries all these years. And I'll rather send, I don't have time, Minister, to engage on that. I'll rather send the question and then maybe we can engage on that way. Nicole Deacons, Adrian van As, I can call all of them. They do not get bursaries. And I work year on end with them. We also need more creative ways, Minister, to collect debts from previous beneficiaries. And I really welcome the involvement of SARS, but for me it's a little too late. We actually are depriving our students, the first years, the opportunity of a lifetime in our lifetime. We need concerted efforts to recover the debts. Last week, the Minister was not available to personally accept the memorandum from students protesting against NSFAS operations. This is understood, Minister, but I also need to say that you cannot be everywhere all the time, and I understand it, but please pay more attention to select committees. Attending those select committees, it seems you are more engaged in SCCP activities than education. But Minister, that I understand you couldn't make it, but then your spokesperson reportedly told these students, the marching students,
Honorable Julius,
I still have time.
Honorable Julius,
oh, sorry.
Honorable Fenyan.
No, thank you.
It's such a pity. Okay.
Honorable Julius, are you ready to take a question?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, House Chair. I actually said I cannot. I would respectfully ask the Minister to engage the allegations that your spokesperson said they should go and march to JSE to get funding from there.
Honorable Julius.
Oh, yeah. I thought there's a point of order, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Damini.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable Damini, sorry, Honorable Fenyane.
The previous speaker did not want to take a question, but I'm just baffled by this situation. Are people allowed to make insinuations that do not have evidence in this House?
No.
As the previous speaker has done.
No, honorable members. It's posing a question.
He has said.
Let me assist you. You are in order, Honorable Fenyan. Take a seat. If ever an honorable member is in the podium, whether it's deliberately misleading the House, you have every right as a member to stand up and raise a point of order. It's your democratic right to do that, and it's parliamentary. But not to say, can you take a question? That is something totally different. But we'll drill the rules as we go on and we'll master them. Honorable Dlamini. Honorable Dlamini, you can go on.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. My greetings to the Honorable Minister, honorable members in the House. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Honorable Minister, I cannot agree with you when you said education should be linked to the work environment. I fully agree with you with that, because education prepares our student for the outside world. there is no way that you can compete in nowadays, especially during the capitalist society, without a proper education. It also assists us to transmit our cultures, because we do not have time to go through with our children and transmit our culture. So it is very much relevant to prepare our children for the outside world. Education is a great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that a son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that a child of a farm worker can become the president of a great nation. It is what make out of what we have, now what we are given, that separate one person from one another. Those are the words of our great leader that we are all claiming today, who was a card-carrying member of the African National Congress, Dr. Nelson Mandela. They arrested him and kept him 27 years in prison. Now they are claiming him. We must not mislead the country, and we must not think that our people don't know. They know very well, and they are very much clear about that. Honorable House Chairperson, early this year, that some of our institutions of higher learning were hit by protests as students expressed dissatisfaction over a shortage of funds from National Student Financial Aid Scheme, better known as NSFAS. We acknowledge that we have challenges in financing all needy students in our country and administrative challenges facing NSFAS, but we can never take away the success stories of our National Financial Student Aid Scheme. To date, NSFAS have given a lot of financial opportunities for children from very poor areas of our communities. Through NSFAS, we can proudly say, as the ANC-led government, that we have doctors, engineers, teachers who are from poorest communities of our country. I said earlier, Honorable Minister, that with the ANC forcing Honorable de Klerk at the time, I'm one of the beneficiaries. That is why I'm standing here today as a proud member of this parliament. Honorable House Chair, we note that 9.5 billion budget of National Student Financial Aid Scheme for 2015. We really appreciate that, Honorable Minister. We are saying on behalf of the African National Congress, keep up the good work of considering our people without considering the colors. We also acknowledge that NSFAS has been allocated over 562.9 million for bursaries for scarce and critical skills for the current financial year. So angibadi ke labakhuluma ngokuthi where we are sending the money is not addressing the scarce and critical skills. I'm talking about 562.9 million that has been allocated. We also note that in 2014, NSFAS provided students loans and bursaries totaling at 8.3 billion, which exclude the once-off allocation of 1 billion for the servicing the 2013 shortfall. Honorable Minister and the Chairperson, the House, ngifuna kusho ngeSiswati ukuthi history is the best experience. Ngiyabeva ke Honorable Huneveld that EDA will do this and do that. Ningakhohlwa ukuthi besikhona yesterday, izolo besikhona, itolo besikhona. Siyanati ukuthi nibuya kuphi as a Democratic Alliance. You were there during the apartheid regime. Let me give you the figures that were allocated by the apartheid government, of which they are coming from. In 1952,
Honorable Dlamini, sorry, Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Honorable
Fab.
House Chair.
Take your seat.
I would like to call a point of order. Honorable House Chair, Honorable Dlamini is deliberately misleading this House by saying that the DA is from the apartheid government. The same organization that she belongs to has absorbed the National Party, which is the apartheid government.
Honorable members, that is not a point of order. Continue, Honorable Chabane.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me say, angibeke ngenye indlela ngithi, i-Democratic Alliance is an alliance, a Democratic Party, the National Party. It still mean the same thing. Banglog, angeke sikushintshe lokho besikhona idolo. Listen what they did and why abantu bakithi bangeke bayithembe i-DA because of that. On 1952, is spending on education by the then government for what white people, it was 874,582. For colored, 99,706 rand. For Indian, 27,319. For black people, including the former Bantustan areas, 144,385. 25 years later.
Honorable
25 years later.
Honorable Faber.
Honourable Chair, I would like to know on a point of clarity if the Honourable Dlamini is talking about the old National Party, which Honourable De Beer, that's not here,
Honourable
is belonging
Faber.
to, because
Honourable Faber.
he's not talking
Honourable
about
Faber.
the Democratic Alliance.
Honourable Faber. Honourable Faber, you know it.
Just on a point of clarity, Honourable Chair.
You know it. Take your seat. You know it better than I do. If you want to pose a question, you must ask whether it's ready to take a question. You can't just stand up and direct a question.
Honourable Chair, then on a
Honourable
point of
Dlamini.
clarity, can I ask you a question?
Can you ask who?
Honourable Chair, through you then on a point of clarity, I would like to know if the Honourable De Beer from the old National Party, if it was the
Honourable
National
Faber, take your
Party that
seat.
she was talking about. I'm just on a point of clarity. I would
Can you
like
take
to-
your seat? Can you take your seat? Honorable Dlamini, go on.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. 25 years later, they're talking about the 20 years of the ANC. Listen what happened 25 years later, 1977. For the white people, 3,181,656. For the colored people, it was 523,088 rand. For the Indian people, 220,598. For the black people, 640,000. That was 25 years later. Then, Chairperson, to come here and say, Kubantu bagithi bala South Africa, when you take over again, you will make this government better. There are no better policies than the ANC policies. Whether you like them or not, you will never have better policies than that. The EFF member, yeah, I'm glad you are back because I have a message for you. I agree with you because all what you are saying, you were not there, the party was not there. But you as an honorable member, I'm quite sure you were there. You can't come here from Mpumalanga and say ANC used the two universities and the Northern Cape for elections, knowing very well that we were a forgotten nation as the two provinces by the apartheid government. Now you come and politicize that good project. It's not fair for the two provinces and communities from those provinces. Maybe you benefited from the tri-camera government. We did not benefit. You can't say that.
Honorable Vauda.
And
Honorable Dlamini. Honorable Vauda.
No, I don't take kindly to this. The point of order, she's now making inferences about my past and she has no right to do that. She's accusing me now of being someone who had benefited from something that I did not
Order,
benefit
members.
from.
I'm missing the point of order. What is the point of order all about?
When she makes this kind of inferences about the tricameral parliament.
That the unfortunate part is that I'm missing the inferences you are talking about. Continue, Honorable Dlamini.
Thank you very much,
Honorable
Honorable
Dlamini,
Chair.
Honorable Faba.
Honourable,
Honorable Faba.
thank you, Honourable Chair. I would like to know if Honourable Dlamini would take a question about Disneyland.
No, don't assist honorable members. It's entirely up to Honorable Dlamini. Don't assist her. Don't assist me. Honorable Dlamini, are you ready to take a question?
On Disneyland.
All those who want to ask me questions, they can queue outside. I will find them there.
She is not ready. Take a seat.
Thank
Honourable
Honorable
Chair,
Dlamini.
I want to say, Kuma students, all the students of this country who are benefiting from NSFAS were listening that EEFF, ET, we must scrap NSFAS. Abolish. They must know that this is the kind of a party that is saying is going to represent them. And I don't think it's fair to those people. Thank you very much, Honorable Kivido, for the suggestions. We need more people like you from the Democratic Alliance, because at least you are positive. Where you see challenges, you are coming with suggestions. I wish we can have so many of them so that you can take over from those people who are very negative about what the government is doing.
You must contest.
Then we really want to conclude, Honorable Minister, to say we want to thank very much the ANC government for taking care of each and every child of South Africa, irregardless of color and their background. These finances that we are providing, it accommodates everyone without considering the color and their background. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Higher Education and Training, Honorable Dr. Nzimande.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much. And to all who participated, let me start by thanking the Chairperson of the Select Committee, Honorable Zwane, together with the other honorable members, Fihlani, Fenyane, Stock, and Dlamini, for all their outlining of the achievements that we've made, but at the same time without running away from stating the challenges. Because it's only the ANC that understands the challenges. That's why it has got the kinds of policies that we have. And the suggestions that we have made, also we are going to take them seriously.
Honorable Minister, sorry, Honorable Faba.
Honourable Chair, I would really like to know if the Minister would take an intelligent question.
Honorable members, Honorable Minister, are you ready?
If there is time left afterwards.
If there is time left,
yes,
you will entertain your question. Take your seat.
Yes.
Continue, Honorable Minister.
We appreciate that, and the suggestions made, we will look at them very seriously. And to add, Honorable Kivito, yes, I agree with Honorable Dlamini that Honorable Kivito was very productive. We hope your future is secure in the DA, because the DA doesn't know how to be. Honorable Groenewald, I want to say, I wish I could believe what the DA is saying about increasing NSFAS and all that. You know, the Western Cape is the only province in this country that does not send student doctors to Cuba. That's an opportunity for poor students from Khayelitsha, from Worcester, everywhere, to be sent to study medicine in Cuba.
Honorable Minister.
This province is not doing that.
Honorable Lebuskaghen.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I would like to know if the Honourable Minister would like to take a question on the Cuba doctors.
No, he has already indicated that if he has got time, he will entertain questions.
That you would, like
Take your seat, Honorable Lebuskaghen. Continue, Honorable Minister.
In fact, we are seriously considering with Minister Mtswaledi assisting the students from the Western Cape and design a program outside of the DA government to take them to go and study in Cuba. Honorable Vauda, we must put our money where our mouths are. If we must increase NSFAS, An honorable leader that you know very well must pay SARS, the taxes. Because the taxes that are owed...
Honorable Minister, sorry. Honorable Vauda.
Point of order. The Honorable Minister is now being personal. I think we should leave personalities out of this. We are discussing issues. Let the Honorable Minister respond to the issues on the table.
Honorable Vauda, that is not a point of order.
It's unparliamentary.
That is not a point of order. Take your seat.
The Honorable Minister should respond to the issues. Leave personalities out.
Honorable Vauda, take your seat. That is not a point of order. Continue, Honorable Minister.
16 million rands, Honorable Chairperson and members, could support possibly around 500 NSFAS students. Now, Honorable Stock, by the way, we agree with you around the issue of distance education for vocational education. It's something that we are seriously exploring. Now, Honorable Kaula, you see federalism doesn't work. That's why now we are saying we must have an overall coordinated bursary and loan strategy. I agree with you there. You're absolutely right. That's why I don't believe in federalism, because often it doesn't work. Honorable Julius, I was tempted to ask Julius who?
Original Julius. Which one?
I don't know what you are talking about, because I meet with stakeholders all the time, every day. Students, academics, vice chancellors, workers, and the whole range, including, by the way, DASO, your own student organization, DA, they will tell you, I meet with them and I consult with them. The fact that on a particular day I wasn't able to fetch a memo does not mean that I have disrespect for students who are marching or that I do not want to meet with stakeholders. And also I want to remind you, by the way, that all SRCs are fundraising. And also to say that when you say we must not look at a student-centered system, all what the system...
Sorry, Honorable Minister. Honorable Fab.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to know if it's the same minister that did not attend meetings last year.
Honorable Fab.
Honorable Fab. It's a question I want you to answer, please.
Honorable Fab. Honorable Fab.
Can I ask the question to Honorable Chair?
Can you take us, Honorable Fab? Honorable Fab, don't abuse the opportunity and rise on a point of order and make a statement. I'm not, don't even respond. Take your seat. Can you take your seat? I'm saying never ever again abuse a point of order opportunity and make just a statement. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Just, I was saying to Honorable Julius, who, by the way, that the reason why we are piloting a new scheme, we want NSFAS to have a direct relation with the students and not be mediated by institutions. That is what we are piloting, and we believe that it will work better.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Julius.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just on a point of order.
Yeah.
I have a name, surname like every South African. I'm not who. I mean who.
No.
And I'll make sure.
Honorable Julius.
I'm Honorable Jacques Julius. If the minister doesn't know, the minister can kindly ask. But Julius,
there's nothing unparliamentary. The minister is saying he asked himself, Honorable Julius who. He was not aware that it's a surname. That's what he's making.
I suggest you check the Hansard House Chair. It wasn't suggested like that. It was who.
Can you take your seat? Can you take your seat? Honorable members, it's not every day that we'll go and check Hansard. There are things that can be said in the House, and I'm listening, I'm following. I can make a ruling here and now. And I'm making a ruling that there's nothing unparliamentary that was said by the minister. Honorable Minister, continue.
In just the last quick point, Honorable Chair, the point that was raised by Honorable Zwane, I must just, about dropouts, it's a very important point. Because it also underlines what all the ANC's members here were saying, it's not government alone. If we give money for NSFAS, we also expect the students to work hard and know that they must make full use. But we do put in money into teaching grants and inputs to try and improve the pass rate in our institutions. Otherwise, thank you very much for the debate and for the honor of being part of this house this afternoon. Siyabonga.
Thank you. On behalf of the leadership of the NCOP, let me take this opportunity to thank special delegates, Western Cape, Limpopo, and Eastern Cape. Honorable Minister, the Fifth Parliament has been declared business unusual. And some are saying you can't praise a fish for swimming, but allow the leadership of the NCOP to give credit where it's due. We commend to avail yourself whenever something serious like the issue of challenges facing needy students has been raised by the NCOP, and you avail yourself in your capacity as a Minister of Higher Education and participate in this very same debate. Honorable members, what is good, let me also say it on behalf of the leadership of the NCOP, that for the whole of last week, part of what was happening as part of the training, especially about these things of rules and the issue of lifelong learning and dealing with the education. If you attend the sessions that are being organized, your conduct will definitely show that you are getting there. But if you are missing out, that will be exposed. So I am convinced that all of us, we still have a conscience to do introspection, to do it justice, to make sure that in doing oversight and acquainting ourselves with the rules and subjecting ourselves to all that was being organized by the leadership, it's something that will make it a matter of must. Be that as it may, that concludes the debate and the business of the day. Honorable members, you will remain standing until the procession has left the house. The house is adjourned. Thank you.